for sure. Second, everything changed. You know that AI change quickly. Every month there is a new model, a new thing which disrupt everything. And of course, students change also. The usage, the way to use AI, and the way to think change every year. So our talk is valid today, maybe not tomorrow. And last but not least, we don't speak about generative AI impact. There are a lot of impact about ecology, society, ethics, and so on. We don't speak about that because it will take too much time. So we will use a movie as a design, and our movie is split in 4 chapters. First chapter, Path of Wisdom. So basically, we will explain how we teach, how we learn, and how to do that with AI. So second, it's a cowboy under pressure. So basically, why students give a lot of pressure to us when they use AI. The third, it's a fabulous idea. We try to fight the AI. Disclaimer, it's not a good idea. And the last, it's we take a quick step back and we think about what skill we want to share with the new student or the future colleague. So another big point, we speak about students, but students in high school. So basically, it's our future colleague or maybe our current colleague. So I think this talk is useful for trainer, also for teacher, but for everyone.
So maybe you listened to the talk of AWS this morning, and this is yet another take from yet another CEO in the AI industry. So this one is from the CEO of Anthropic. You may know him because Anthropic does Claude, which is quite used. 90% of the code will be written by AI by the end of 2025. That's their prediction. Okay, you have seen that from everyone, and the number varies, but in the end, as developers, we can ask ourselves the question, okay, if 90% of the code is written by AI, it leaves 10% to us. As teachers, this concerns us because in the end, the schools will look like that. Empty classrooms with no students left, so what can we do about that? The question we are faced, and why we have faced this question is because we are both teachers, so we are both from Worldline, but I'm also a teacher at the university. I'm teaching Java and software architecture. And by teaching Java, of course, GenAI plays a lot of role.
Similar to me, so I teach also in high school, and on my side, it's on architecture Linux. So let's begin with a quick approach about how to learn and how to teach. Take a quick example. So if you use ChatGPT to solve a first-degree equation, you ask him, please solve 2x minus 84 equals 0. He answers, the answer is 42. Okay, perfect. But if you use the AI for that, you are not able to solve a first-degree equation. You just have the answer, but not the way to solve it. So if you use this tool with this method, you are not able to learn, basically. So why the students do that first and how to solve that?
Okay, it's not a problem per se because you are not able to learn mathematics anymore. We are lazy developers, okay? We are lazy by nature because we are developers. And the human nature is to do the simplest thing. And the core idea here is that progress leads us to simplify our life, okay? So maybe GenAI is here to simplify our life, and we don't have to learn mathematics anymore. Take an example, the washing machine. It's a progress, a technological progress. The core idea that no one wants to know how to wash the laundry by hand today. So maybe it's fine. Maybe it's the course of time that we forget how to do mathematics.
I agree, but sometimes, if I take another example, when I am at school, I write a lot, so I need to write a lot manually, and I have a certain level, to be polite, on grammar and spelling. Now, I stopped on writing from since a lot of time, and when I use computer to write my email, my Word document, and so on, and I have a spell checker with solve any issue regarding grammar and spelling. But the consequences is direct. Previously, my level is, let's say, average, to be polite, and now my level on spelling and grammar is a complete disaster. When I need to write on a paper, I have a lot of difficulties to remember if I need to double this letter or not and how to write. So this change, this technology has an impact. Of course, we gain time, but on the learning path and the knowledge we have, there is an impact. So let's discuss about that.
So, quick disclaimer, we are not full-time teachers, so we will discuss how to teach, but this is to take some precautions, and we are definitely not neuroscience experts. So we have ideas, we propose things, but this can be challenged, of course.
So let's present our way to teach. First, we present a material. Second, we define a challenging task. And third, we repeat. If we go in details, in order to present new material, you need to present the knowledge. Let's take the example of the first-degree equation. You explain how to solve a first-degree equation. You can explain that by the voice. On the chalkboard, for example, give a lot of information. So you have various mediums to share the knowledge and explain it. And another way to improve that is to give an anecdote to engage the learner. On this point, I'm very bad because I think it's very difficult to do that, but it depends, I suppose. When you have that, the student knows the basics about the knowledge. After that, you need to define an exercise with a correct level. This point is tricky by design because in a classroom, you have a lot of students and the level is very different for each student. Sometimes they are very mature, sometimes not in your field, so it's difficult. Second, you need to define an exercise with multiple steps and, if possible, multiple ways to solve the exercise. In that case, the student can understand there are multiple ways to solve it and can learn from other students. It's better. And last, but I think it's the key point here, you need to spend enough brain and enough time on a task to learn correctly, to trigger the correct zone in the brain. By definition, we say at least 5 minutes or 10 minutes on an exercise. Less, it's not efficient. Okay, so now we have learned. We have an exercise to learn more, and we need to remember. I don't know if you know this curve is the forgetting curve by Hermann Ebbinghaus, and the idea is when you learn something, after some times, you lose this knowledge. So you need to train it and to learn each time with repetition in order to increase the number of days you remember this notion. You have a lot of algorithms to do that on the space repetition algorithm, for example, like Anki or things like that, to remember correctly information. So now we have how to learn and how to teach. Let's discuss about the main issue. So we are a cowboy or a teacher under pressure because of AI. So why? Let's discuss of the usage of the student. So we have the good usage of the student. So we have three. First, reformulate the teaching. So basically, when you teach something to a student, you have a good way to explain that for a lot of the students, but sometimes you need to use another way to explain. So maybe by a picture, by another media, or take another example, and so on. So, but it's very difficult to do that in the classroom for everyone. So they can use the AI to reformulate the teaching. Second, I think this one is critical for us. It's when you give a courses, you have a lot of prerequisites. The level in the classes is very different. Sometimes people are in a foreign country the year before, so they don't have the basics and so on, and they can use AI during the course to fill the gap and have the correct skills. And last, during the exercise, of course, they can solve small problem without asking to the professor. Let's continue with the bad usage. So for the bad usage, you see it coming, of course. But not, it's not already that. You have the direct answer. Like I mentioned in the beginning, if the student decide to ask only the answer, they don't learn a lot of things. So it's a bad idea to do that. Second, hallucination. We know the AI do hallucination. The main issue is when you are an expert on a field, on a domain, you can detect this hallucination. But when you are a student and you discover a new domain, it's very difficult to detect that. And last but not least, sometimes they are too focused on AI. So they are watching their screen and they don't listen on the teacher, and it's difficult for us to capture the thing.
The extreme situation is that in some of my courses, I have some students with their headphones on. They don't listen to me, they watch their AI, and they don't even listen to the course. They take the slides, they ask to ChatGPT to rephrase the slides, but if I'm not there, it's exactly the same. It's a bit frustrating, okay? You are still in the bad usage, because there is the ugly usage, because you can see it coming. They can use ChatGPT to cheat, okay? They can use ChatGPT or Copilot to cheat, and why is that? That because, from my humble experience, I've got rid of the examination on paper. I have examination on laptops, and this gets with internet, and if it gets with internet, it gets with Copilot. And in the end, they use Copilot to solve the assignment, okay? And in the end, I end up grading ChatGPT. Why is that? It goes back to what Thomas just said. We need to have easy assignments for them to learn, okay? We cannot have very complex things from the ground up. So the assignments are quite easy to solve. And on top of that, the assignments often are tutorials on public domain. So it was used to train ChatGPT or Copilot, or you name it. So basically, ChatGPT is very good at solving this kind of tutorials and giving you the whole answer. So I'm a bit screwed here, because in the end, I grade ChatGPT 20 times, so everyone has a good grade, obviously, but my work is not done for sure, and the students didn't learn anything. And I'm very upset by that, clearly. So how can we grade actual students? This is my key concern. So let's do the obvious thing that I did, actually. Let's fight again ChatGPT and OpenAI. I tried to begin my class and telling my students, don't use ChatGPT, you won't learn anything. Do you think they care? Not at all. Yeah. An option is to go back to code on paper, actually. That could be an option. Yeah, maybe you suffered that in the university. I did myself, and I don't do code on paper for a good reason. Sébastien Stormac nailed it this morning. We all use autocomplete, right? If you don't have autocomplete, you are here to learn how to correctly indent your code in Python. Does it have any value for Wordline? I'm sure not. The value is about problem solving, not knowing the syntax. But if you do that, you are grading the syntax. So we are losing a bit of skills here if you do that. But anyway, just for you to know, there is a small paper company in Pennsylvania. If you know The Office, you know the joke, but it's actually a true paper company that makes this kind of books. It's called Blue Books in the US. It was used back in the days to grade the students. So it's an examination paper that there is in all colleges, universities, and so on. They went almost out of business because everyone was using computers to perform exams. But since ChatGPT came out, they now have a flourishing business because every college and university goes back to paper examination just to be sure that they are not grading GenAI. Problem is that for code, it's a bit more complex than that. Because if you don't have internet, you don't have GenAI for sure, but you don't have autocompletion, you don't have documentation, you don't have package management, you don't have APIs, libraries, and so on. So it's a bit dry to learn code like that. So it doesn't work in the end. I cannot consider that teaching Java without internet will be something that works. So let's try something else, right? Let's try to fight the AI right away and invent some grading material that is too complex for the AI to grade. Let's take an example. Here I have a lot of Java developers, not in the first row, but anyway. This is a classic trick where generics in Java have a bit of a peculiarity where you cannot mix different types, different subtypes in a collection if the collection uses a wildcard. It's a classic trick in the Java world. And indeed, this is something that Copilot, at least using ChatGPT 4.0, doesn't know how to solve. It doesn't know how to implement that because the code you see here has been indeed written by ChatGPT. So it doesn't know about this trick. This doesn't compile, by the way. The key point is that
Okay, it's good, but I am a newbie in Java, and if I learn the language, I'm not able to win against such complex challenge. So basically, I need the basics before that, so it's not possible as a student to understand that. So we fail, for sure. Basically, another topic is when we try to teach, you need to use simplicity as a motive. So it's very key. If you try to explain very complex topics which are not simple, it's very difficult.
And the other trick is that basically what I'm trying to do here by racing against AI, it's also racing against time. Because today, ChatGPT doesn't know how to solve that. But tomorrow, it will for sure. Or I hope so, because I will use it to solve it in production duties. So this doesn't work at all. I'm just chasing ghosts here. So, and there is a big other thing that we are missing as teachers if we forbid to use ChatGPT, that Blondie is actually a good guy. And ChatGPT and GenAI has a lot of good use cases. The one I've seen the most in my courses is the one that Thomas explained us, rephrasing the material. Because when I speak and when I write my slides, maybe my students don't understand what I am saying. And they have the opportunity to ask someone else who is very proficient, because it's trained on a lot of data, to explain in another way and to ask for a tutor. So this is very valuable as a use case. So definitely fighting against AI is not the solution. But we can go and take a step back, and why are we fighting against AI as teachers? Or at least why am I trying to fight AI in the first place? It's because my course for years have been focused on syntax and how to write good Java, which is not the skill we need for a developer. We need a skill which is solve problems. which is not the same. This is what is actually needed to solve. If you don't see it, it's a stack trace, okay? Maybe if you have a production experience, you know this perfectly well, but in the end, what I want developers to know is how to solve this kind of issues and not how to write a for loop by heart. So maybe it's the opportunity to step a step back.
So the question is, what skills do we want to become a true cowboy? So first, when you see that guy and you have your old revolver in the pocket, you are sure you have a problem. It's time to change your weapon. So we are split this part regarding the skill in three categories. First, upstream, before using AI, downstream, after using AI, and generic category. So before using AI, of course, you need to master some tool and to know how to design. Regarding the tool, you need to know if you want to use Cursor, Klein in VS Code, Claude in the terminal. It depends. You also need to give some time to understand the prompting, how to use it, what type of prompting you need. If I take a concrete example, in my course now, I had a prompt to generate diagram as code in an exercise. Before the AI, I don't have that. And last, the model. We have a lot of model, but in my course, I don't have any issue with any model. So,
yeah, in my course, in Java especially, I changed my course with a small disclaimer at the beginning of my course. And instead of saying don't use GenAI, I say explicitly use this kind of GenAI for this kind of task and this kind of GenAI for another kind of task. Basically, ChatGPT is quite good at architecture questions, while Claude is obviously far better at generating code at the moment. It may change. It's a bit of a trick you need to get sharp on this each and every year, but choosing the right model is critical.
So after that, we are sure the student will be able to answer this question. Do we need to say thank you? When there are all this knowledge, it's time to understand the request. So basically, when we define an exercise, we are less precise on the different steps. We only say, okay, you have this exercise, and on my case, I give more information about non-functional requirements to say, okay, when a client go to you and say he wants RTO equals 0 and RPO equals 0, it will be a bit difficult. Regarding understanding the problem, I think this point is key. It's not related to IT. Basically, we have a request, a customer request, and we need to split it in different steps and understand correctly the problem and materialize in our mind how to solve it. And last, it's also we need to have enough high-level theoretical skills to guide the AI. So let's say, if I take an example in my courses, it's they need to install WordPress for an exercise, and they need to choose between what database they need, Postgre, MySQL, MariaDB. They need to decide and to search for that.
That's cool to have skills before talking to AI, but when you have talked to AI, then you get code, and this code you need to understand. And that's when basically the things begin to be difficult. What I've seen in my Java course especially, that a lot of people use GenAI and then they ask, please teacher, I don't understand this code at all. Okay, classic thing. And they don't understand the code because they don't understand the error that the code triggers. So the first thing I changed in my course is now I have a full practical work about how to debug a running Java application, which was really lacking before. Just to frame that, I had this practical work, but about compilation errors, which is a thing that is really easy to solve with any GenAI or any good IDE in the first place. My purpose was to learn, to teach them how to use an IDE. Now they know how to do that quite easily, and that's not really the skill that I want anymore. The one that I want is that I want them to understand where does your null pointer exception come from. And this is a whole new story. Okay, why debug? We have vibe coding. It's easy to guess that tomorrow the languages, the LLMs will be able to autocorrect themselves. That's maybe true, but in the end, knowing how to solve a problem will be key still. Because in the end, this kind of agentic AI that autocorrects itself is only able to autocorrect their own way of thinking. So being able to drive their way of thinking by choosing the right architecture, for example, or correcting the wrong path where it's stuck will be also critical. So knowing how to drive the AI and the implementation of the AI will be a skill that I need to teach in my Java course.
And I have the same thing on my courses about, I add a lot of debug, of course. So basically, I take the reverse, the exercise is finished, but with a lot of error, and they need to debug first. And after that, I want to get rid of the it doesn't work answer every time when I ask what is the problem, in order to take a step back and split the problem, understand the problem, and so on.
And the final skill that we think will be critical in this kind of teaching is problem-solving skills. It's something that was lacking, especially in my Java course, and when I started teaching software architecture, I focused a lot on that. Basically, I've split that in 3 parts. Strategies. You can think of a lot of strategies to tackle a problem. I have some examples here, but there is a dozen of strategies that allow you to tackle a problem with different approaches. Tactics, then, that you can use to actually drill down into the problems, and the main that you can know is the plan, do, check, act, or the Deming wheel, which is a very classical way to tackle a problem. But if you want to tackle, for example, debugging purposes, root cause analysis is a whole different way of approaching a problem that can be very useful to teach. And finally, I spent quite some time teaching my students about biases of analysis. Basically, when you are stuck on a problem and you don't see the whole picture, knowing these biases help you get some insight about how you can change your approach about problem solving and understand a new way of thinking. So this is something I focused a lot on architecture. There is still one big question, which is how to assess. And we have shared this with other teachers, and the key thing that keeps coming back is, okay, we will do something that ChatGPT is not able to solve. But this time, it's about human nature. It's presenting in front of people, because this is not something that you can cheat about. If you are able to present a technical skill to other people, you have already quite mastered it. And there is a lot of feedback about grading people actually telling how they solve problems. I do that in software architecture. I bet it will be way more complicated in the Java course. I will try it next year, so we can have this discussion next year if I succeed. But for our software architecture, it's quite effective indeed. Of course, this is not finished. This is our humble feedback, and we will keep improving our way of teaching. And this is the opportunity to have a brand new world to experiment with these new GenAI tools that will challenge ourselves to teach the right things we need for the developers.
So let's finish with the cowboy going on the sunset. So first, and I think it's the most important part as a teacher, we have to learn from the teacher, from the student. And moreover, you need to learn to work with them. Like I mentioned in the beginning, This student will become our colleague in few years, maybe months. So we need to deal with this new way to work. I think this point is key. As a teacher, we need to be humble. After that, like Philippe explained, it's not a good idea to fight the AI. Students will be able to use it, so don't try to block it. And we think it's another opportunity to teach what really matters. If we go to the skills, they need, of course, some AI knowledge. I think in the future, maybe it's dedicated courses to understand how to use AI. They need to understand how to design, how to materialize in their mind what is the request, and how to explain it to guide the AI. And last, like Philippe explained, they need a lot of methodology, of way to solve, tactics, strategy, and so on.
So it's basically the end of the story, except that like every good movie, there is a post-end credits scene, which is, you remember this? So code on paper or code on whiteboard. There is another place where you do a lot of code on whiteboard. Maybe not in Worldline, by the way. But in other companies, recruitment is based on that, still. And this is not the way we want all future colleagues to be assessed, because this is not the skills we want. Okay, so it's about time we have this discussion about the recruitment process. Maybe it's time to have something that is more sensible about the skills we need in the company. And within Worldline, we don't do that a lot. But the key message that we want to focus on is the one that Thomas pinpointed in the introduction. This is not about the students. We are teaching within Worldline because these are our future colleagues. And so all future colleagues will be doing stuff with that. We need to embed that and learn how to work with them efficiently. So it's about time we stop trying to do code on paper and trying to do the stuff the old way, basically. And know that's the official end credits.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much for
Thank you all.
the presentation.